right, everyone, listen up. I see a lot of tightly wound faces out there, people walking around like a bomb about to explode. You know what I'm talking about, that simmering rage, that constant irritation, that feeling like everyone is out to get you. You know that feeling when someone just gets under your skin? Maybe it's a rude comment, someone cutting you off in traffic, or even that one person who always seems to know exactly how to push your button. And just like that, anger takes over. It's almost automatic. Your heart races, your muscles tense up, and you're left stewing over something that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't deserve that much power over you. Now, I'm not saying you're never going to feel anger. Emotions are part of being human. But what you do with that anger, that's what we're talking about. It's about taking control, not letting it control you. Because let's face it, flying off the handle never solved anything. It just makes you look like a jerk and ruins your day. Well, I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to go through life constantly angry or bothered. Anger is a powerful emotion. It can take over your mind and body in seconds, making you say or do things you regret. But what if I told you that anger is actually a choice? I know that sounds strange because anger feels so automatic, so immediate, but between what happens to you and how you react, there's a tiny space, a moment, where you have the power to decide. In that space, you get to choose whether to react with anger or respond with calmness. Most people don't realize they have that choice, and that's why they keep getting angry over and over again. But once you become aware of that moment, you can break the cycle of anger for good. Think about the last time someone made you angry. Maybe they said something rude, cut you off in traffic, or ignored your feelings. You probably felt a surge of frustration, maybe even rage. It felt like they caused your anger, right? But the truth is, they didn't. Their actions were just a trigger. Your anger came from how you interpreted the situation and the meaning you gave to it. If you pause for a moment before reacting, you'll notice that your mind starts to build a story around what happened. Maybe it sounds like, how dare they disrespect me? Or, they're doing this on purpose to hurt me. Those thoughts are what fuel your anger, not the event itself. This is where the power of pausing comes in. When you pause, you give yourself a chance to question the story your mind is creating. You get to ask yourself, is this worth my peace of mind? Or am I assuming the worst without knowing the full story? Most of the time, you'll realize that your anger isn't justified or necessary. It's just a reaction based on your interpretation, not the facts. By pausing, you give yourself the freedom to choose a different response, one that keeps you calm and in control. But I get it. Pausing isn't easy, especially when you're used to reacting on autopilot. It takes practice. Start by recognizing the physical signs of anger. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense up, your face feels hot. When you notice these signals, take a deep breath. This simple action interrupts your automatic reaction and activates the rational part of your brain. It's like pressing the pause button on a movie. In that brief moment, you have the power to decide how you want to respond. One of the most effective ways to strengthen this habit is by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches you to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It helps you become aware of that space between stimulus and response. When you practice mindfulness regularly, you become better at catching your anger before it spirals out of control. You learn to acknowledge your emotions without letting them dictate your actions. This doesn't mean you suppress your anger or pretend everything is fine. Suppressed anger builds up and eventually explodes. Instead, acknowledge your anger. Say to yourself, I'm feeling angry right now, and that's okay. By accepting your emotion without judgment, you reduce its power over you. It's like shining a light on a shadow. Once you see it clearly, it loses its hold on you. Then you can choose to respond calmly and rationally. It's also important to challenge the thoughts that trigger your anger. Often our minds jump to conclusions or make negative assumptions about others' intentions. For example, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you might think they're so selfish and inconsiderate. But is that really true? Maybe they're rushing to the hospital or just made an honest mistake. When you challenge your assumptions, You create space for understanding and compassion. You realize that most people aren't out to get you, they're just dealing with their own struggles. This perspective shift helps you let go of anger and respond with empathy instead. Another powerful tool is to practice gratitude. When you're focused on what you appreciate in life, you're less likely to get triggered by minor annoyances. Gratitude shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Instead of fixating on what's wrong, you start noticing what's right. This doesn't mean you ignore problems or allow people to walk all over you. It means you choose not to give negativity more attention than it deserves. When you realize that anger is a choice, you take back control of your life. You stop letting other people dictate your emotional state. You become the master of your reactions. This doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you'll get better at it. You'll find yourself pausing more often, questioning your assumptions, and choosing calmness over anger. And eventually, you'll notice that people and situations that used to bother you no longer have that power. The next time you feel anger rising, remember, you have a choice. You can react on autopilot and let anger control you, or you can pause, reflect, and choose a better response. That's the secret to never getting angry or bothered with anyone again. It's not about changing them, it's about changing how you respond. Once you master this, you'll experience a level of peace and freedom that most people never even imagine. One of the biggest reasons people get angry or bothered is because they take things personally. Someone makes a rude comment, ignores a message, or doesn't show appreciation, and suddenly it feels like an attack on your worth. But here's the truth. People's actions are about them, not you. Their words and behaviors reflect their own perceptions, insecurities, and experiences. Once you understand this, you free yourself from unnecessary anger and frustration. Imagine someone snapping at you out of nowhere. Your first instinct might be to think, what did I do wrong? Or why are they being so disrespectful to me? But the reality is, their mood has more to do with what's going on in their life than anything you did. Maybe they're stressed, tired, or dealing with a personal issue. Maybe they've developed a habit of reacting negatively to minor inconveniences. Whatever the reason, it's not about you. Their reaction is a reflection of their inner state, not a judgment of your value. This is why it's so important to stop taking things personally. When you do, you reclaim your emotional power. You no longer allow others' actions to dictate your mood or self-worth. You create a buffer between their behavior and your response, giving yourself the freedom to choose how to feel and react. This doesn't mean you ignore disrespect or allow people to mistreat you. It means you stop internalizing their actions as proof of your inadequacy. You learn to observe their behavior without attaching it to your identity. To practice this, start by questioning your assumptions. When someone says or does something hurtful, your mind immediately starts creating a narrative about it. Maybe it sounds like, they don't respect me, or I must have done something wrong. But these are just interpretations, not facts. Ask yourself, what if this has nothing to do with me? Or what if they're just having a bad day? Shifting your perspective in this way helps you realize that their behavior is about them, not you. One powerful technique is to practice empathy. Instead of reacting with anger or hurt, try to see the situation from their point of view. Ask yourself, what could they be going through that would make them act this way? Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed, insecure, or misunderstood. When you consider their struggles, it becomes easier to respond with compassion instead of anger. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior, but it helps you understand that it's not about you. This approach is especially useful when dealing with criticism. It's easy to take criticism personally, especially when it feels harsh or unfair. But remember, criticism often says more about the critic than the target. People project their insecurities, fears, and frustrations onto others. If someone criticizes your work, it might reflect their own fear of failure or need for control. If they make a hurtful comment about your appearance, it could stem from their own insecurities about how they look. By recognizing this, you can separate their criticism from your self-worth and respond with calmness and confidence. This doesn't mean you should dismiss all feedback. Constructive criticism is valuable for growth and improvement, but even then, It's important to evaluate it objectively rather than taking it as a personal attack. Ask yourself, is there any truth to this feedback that I can use to improve? If the answer is yes, take the lesson and leave the negativity behind. If the answer is no, let it go without internalizing it. Another key to not taking things personally is to develop a strong sense of self-worth. When you know your value, others' opinions and actions lose their power over you. You become less reactive and more resilient because you no longer seek validation from external sources. You understand that people's judgments are based on their own biases and experiences, not an accurate assessment of your worth. To build this self-worth, focus on your strengths and accomplishments. Remind yourself of your qualities, skills, and values. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small. Surround yourself with supportive people who appreciate you for who you are, not for what you do for them. The more confident you feel in your own identity, the less likely you are to take things personally. It's also important to let go of the need for approval. Not everyone will like you or agree with you, and that's okay. People see the world through their own lenses, shaped by their experiences and beliefs. Their opinions are subjective, not universal truths. Once you accept this, you stop taking their judgments personally. You realize that their perspective is just one of many, and it doesn't define who you are. In the end, choosing not to take things personally is about emotional freedom. It's about releasing the weight of others' actions and focusing on your own peace of mind. It's about understanding that everyone is dealing with their own challenges, and sometimes their behavior is just a reflection of their struggles. When you stop taking things personally, you become less reactive, less stressed, and more at peace. You regain control over your emotions and live a happier, more balanced life. Emotional resilience is not something you're born with. It's a skill you can develop through consistent practice. If you want to never get angry or bothered with anyone, training your mind daily is essential. This isn't about suppressing your emotions or pretending you're unaffected. It's about strengthening your ability to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. It's about building a buffer between what happens and how you choose to feel about it. By training your mind, you learn to stay grounded and composed no matter how challenging the situation. Start by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness helps you become aware of your thoughts and feelings without being consumed by them. When you notice anger or irritation rising, take a deep breath and observe the emotion without judgment. Notice where you feel it in your body, maybe a tightening in your chest or tension in your shoulders. By simply acknowledging the emotion without labeling it as good or bad, you create space between the trigger and your reaction. This space allows you to choose how to respond rather than automatically reacting in anger or frustration. Incorporate meditation into your daily routine. Even just 5 to 10 minutes of meditation can train your brain to stay calm and focused. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on your breath. When your mind wanders, gently bring your attention back to your breathing. This practice strengthens your ability to stay present and prevents you from getting lost in emotional reactions. Over time, you'll find that stressful situations don't affect you as intensely because you've built the mental muscle to remain calm and centered. Another powerful tool is reframing. When someone's words or actions upset you, challenge your initial interpretation. Ask yourself, is there another way to look at this? Or what if this isn't about me at all? Often we get angry because we take things personally or assume malicious intent, but most of the time people's behavior reflects their own struggles and insecurities. By reframing the situation, you shift from feeling attacked to understanding that it's not about you. This perspective helps you stay calm and prevents unnecessary anger. Journaling is also an effective way to build emotional resilience. At the end of each day, write down any situations that bothered you and explore why they triggered you. Were you feeling insecure, tired, or stressed? Did the situation remind you of a past experience? By reflecting on your emotional reactions, you gain insight into your triggers and learn to manage them better. Journaling also helps you release pent-up emotions, preventing them from building up and exploding later. Equally important is practicing empathy. When you make an effort to understand where others are coming from, it becomes much harder to get angry or bothered. Empathy allows you to see beyond the behavior and recognize the human being behind it. It helps you realize that everyone is dealing with their own battles, which may have nothing to do with you. To practice empathy, start by actively listening. When someone says something hurtful or annoying, resist the urge to react immediately. Instead, take a deep breath and listen without interrupting. Pay attention to their tone, body language, and choice of words. Try to understand their perspective without judging or defending yourself. Sometimes people lash out because they feel unheard or misunderstood. By simply listening, you can diffuse tension and avoid unnecessary conflict. Next, put yourself in their shoes. Ask yourself, what could they be experiencing that would make them act this way? Maybe they're stressed, overwhelmed, or feeling unappreciated. Maybe they don't have the emotional tools to express themselves calmly. When you consider their struggles, it's easier to respond with compassion rather than anger. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior, but it helps you avoid taking it personally. Practice gratitude as part of your empathy training. When someone frustrates you, consciously shift your focus to something you appreciate about them. Maybe they've supported you in the past or have good intentions, even if their delivery is flawed. By focusing on their positive qualities, you balance your perspective and prevent anger from taking over. Lastly, remember that empathy also applies to yourself. Be kind to yourself when you get triggered or react emotionally. Emotional resilience doesn't mean you never feel anger or frustration. It means you acknowledge your emotions, learn from them, and choose to respond differently next time. The more you practice empathy, both for yourself and others, the less likely you are to get angry or bothered. You create emotional space that allows you to remain calm, compassionate, and in control. One of the most effective ways to avoid getting angry or bothered with anyone is to lower your expectations. Often frustration arises when reality doesn't match up to what we expected. We expect people to be considerate, to communicate clearly, to be punctual, or to behave in ways that align with our values. But the truth is, people are imperfect, just like us. They make mistakes, they have bad days, and they don't always live up to our standards. When you lower your expectations, you give people the freedom to be human without letting their actions disrupt your peace. This doesn't mean settling for poor treatment or allowing people to disrespect you. It means adjusting your mindset to accept that people will not always behave the way you want them to. When you expect less, you're less likely to be disappointed or angered when things don't go as planned. For example, if you expect a friend to always remember your birthday and they forget, you might feel hurt or angry. But if you lower your expectations and understand that people are busy or forgetful, you'll be more likely to respond with understanding rather than resentment. Lowering your expectations also means letting go of the need to control others. You can't control how someone speaks, reacts, or makes decisions, but you can control how you respond. By accepting that people are on their own journeys, dealing with their own issues, you free yourself from the burden of trying to change them. This acceptance leads to inner peace because you're no longer fighting against reality. You're simply allowing things to be as they are without resistance. Another benefit of lowering expectations is increased gratitude. When you expect less, you become more appreciative of what you do receive. If you don't expect constant praise or validation, you'll find joy in the occasional compliment. If you don't expect people to always agree with you, you'll value their honesty and diverse perspectives. This shift in mindset helps you focus on the positives instead of dwelling on what you didn't get. Ultimately, by lowering your expectations, you protect your peace of mind. You stop giving people the power to dictate your emotions. You learn to navigate relationships with patience, compassion, and resilience, ensuring that no one's behavior can rob you of your calmness and joy. Learning to let go is one of the most powerful ways to avoid getting angry or bothered with anyone. When you hold on to grudges, past hurts, or unmet expectations, you carry emotional baggage that weighs you down. This burden not only affects your mood, but also your interactions with others. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or excusing someone's behavior. It means choosing to release the negative emotions attached to it. It's about deciding that your peace is more important than holding on to anger or resentment. When you let go, you free yourself from the emotional chains that keep you stuck in a cycle of frustration and disappointment. Compassion is a superpower that disarms negativity and brings peace. When you practice compassion, you shift from judging others to understanding them. You recognize that everyone is fighting their own battles, carrying their own burdens, and dealing with their own struggles. By approaching people with empathy rather than criticism, you soften your heart and reduce your anger. Compassion allows you to see beyond someone's actions and understand the pain or insecurity that might be driving their behavior. It's a conscious choice to respond with kindness rather than reacting with anger. This shift in perspective disarms negativity and helps you maintain emotional balance. Imagine someone cutting you off in traffic. Your first reaction might be anger or annoyance, but if you choose compassion, you might consider that they're rushing to an emergency, or perhaps they're simply having a bad day. This doesn't justify their actions, but it does change how you feel about it. Instead of stewing in anger, you let it go and continue with your day peacefully. Compassion not only helps you stay calm, but also fosters a sense of connection with others, reducing feelings of isolation or resentment. Another game-changing strategy is shifting your focus from problems to solutions. When faced with a challenging situation or an irritating person, it's easy to get stuck on what went wrong or how unfair things seem. But dwelling on problems only intensifies negative emotions and keeps you trapped in anger. Instead, train your mind to look for solutions. Ask yourself, what can I do to improve this situation? Or how can I respond in a way that maintains my peace? This approach empowers you to take control of your emotions and actions rather than letting external events dictate your mood. For example, if a coworker is consistently rude, you could dwell on their negativity and let it ruin your day, or you could focus on solutions like setting boundaries, communicating your concerns calmly, or simply choosing not to take their behavior personally. By shifting your focus to what you can control, you reduce your frustration and feel more empowered. When you learn to let go, practice compassion, and focus on solutions, you build emotional resilience. You become less reactive and more intentional in how you respond to others. You stop giving people the power to upset you and start taking charge of your own emotional state. This mindset not only helps you avoid anger, but also enhances your overall well-being, allowing you to live with more peace, joy, and freedom. So the key to never getting angry or bothered with anyone lies in mastering your own mind and emotions. It starts with realizing that anger is a choice and that you have the power to control your reactions. By stopping yourself from taking things personally, you separate your sense of self-worth from others' actions. Training your mind daily builds emotional resilience, making you stronger in the face of challenges. Practicing empathy shifts your perspective, allowing you to understand rather than judge. Lowering your expectations helps you accept people as they are, reducing disappointment and frustration. Learning to let go frees you from emotional baggage, while compassion disarms negativity and fosters peace. Shifting your focus from problems to solutions empowers you to take control of your responses. When you combine all of these strategies, you become unshakable. You stop letting others dictate your mood and reclaim the power over your own emotional state. It's about choosing peace over conflict, understanding over judgment, and solutions over problems. In the end, mastering these skills not only helps you avoid anger, but also leads to a more joyful, balanced, and fulfilling life.